Okay. If you want to compute a power 1 million, in 40 steps you can get in this method, whereas that is the traditional. So if you increment this way, you are going to have a lot of time spent, and if you gallop towards the answer, then it is possible to reduce the number of steps. Therefore, you should see whether there is a possibility of faster or accelerated incrementing strategy. So first what you think of is it possible to design an incremental method? In other words, is it possible for me to consider a progress done stage by stage, and can I think of an end stage solution? This should come to you to give you a very clean, simple first level idea. Having got that, think little more. Is it possible for me to speed up this by incrementing in 2s, incrementing in 3s, or doubling and then reaching the answer? If that is possible, all the way you are going to have more efficient solution. Okay? So these kind of a thought process and pattern of wisdom you must have in order to apply incremental algorithm effectively. Okay? One of the, and you should also look for the scope for incrementing in the pattern. Let us consider the following well-known problem. This is evaluating a polynomial at a point. If you want to evaluate a polynomial, let us say Pn of x equal to a0 plus a1x plus a2x square plus an x power n. If you view this as Pn minus 1 of x plus an x power n, this is an incremental view. You have taken this and you are extending this solution. In other words, Pi of x equal to Pi minus 1 of x plus ai x power I. This is a generic form. If you view like this, you are extending cost. You are extending a solution of a smaller instance to a larger instance. What is the cost of extending? The cost of extending is, it is going from smaller to larger, but the cost of extending done in a naive way, right, will take I multiplication. Done in a naive way, it will take I multiplication. So each extension of the ith stage is I, therefore the total cost is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus up to n, therefore this is order n square, because this is n into n plus 1 by 2 and so on, it is anyway order n square. Okay. So you see that when you view like this, and in the ith stage the extending cost is something that you should bear in mind to make it efficient. One is formulation, another one is if you are careless, the naive way of extending is going to cost this much. However, if you observe that this xi can be computed from xi minus 1 with only one multiplication, okay, then what you can do is you can store a value called temp1 or whatever it is. Initially temp1 equal to x, then temp1 can have x square, then temp1 can have x cube and so on. In other words, there is one location which can be constantly updated to have this, and the temp can be multiplied with ai. If you do that, the extending cost becomes 2. Why? You have to perform only temp equal to temp star x, and you have to compute ai equal to ai star temp, and if this is p equal to p plus ai. This is what you have to do. So you are doing only 2 multiplication, and when you do it for every stage, right, you see that extending cost is 2, which is independent of I. Therefore, the total cost is 2n. But there is yet another clever way of doing it. If you look at the extension in a slightly different fashion, and when you do that, you can get it in n steps itself, and that is the well known method. What is that method called? Polynomial evaluation, the Horner's rule, right? Are you familiar with Horner's rule? Probably some of you heard about it, and the way to evaluate is, okay, an x plus an minus 1 into x plus an minus 2 into x and so on. So start with this. This is one multiplication, and this is another multiplication, and this is another multiplication. So you are multiplying and adding, multiply and add, multiply and add, and finally the polynomial will be obtained with n multiplication and n addition. Very cool and simple method, very clever, but it is twice as fast as even this cleverer method. So incremental design is extending the solution. You should look for how to extend in a clever way, because the cost of extension is going to be repeatedly applied. Hence, if you are naive, the extending cost could be more. If you are slightly better, it can be less, but still the cost of extending this solution in each stage is only 1, and this is the ultimate algorithm. Okay? So two things you should look for in an incremental design is how to extend carefully. The second thing you should look for incremental design is, in one extension can I jump a large quantity ahead of me, so that I will have less number of times the method to be pressed into service. So I account for the entire input in as few incremental stages as possible. Okay, as few as possible. If you could increment in 3 units, n by 3 is essential, but at least that is better than going in 1 step per stage. So all these possibilities you should look for. Just to illustrate that point, I have given you various case studies. This polynomial evaluation is in fact attributed to Newton, although it is attributed as Horner's rule. This is known from the Newton's days. Okay, and this is the most efficient method available for evaluating the polynomial. In fact, you can show that you cannot do anything better than this, right? This is an optimal algorithm. Okay, so we have seen the incremental as a strategy in real life with a story, and in our algorithm we have seen that it comes in various flavors and forms. Now we can just take a look at a toy example. In fact, there are several problems that are solved using incremental design. Besides sorting and geometric problems and other things, you have you have Lagrange's interpolation formula solved through incremental design. The naive Lagrange's interpolation formula will take, that is constructing a polynomial passing through n points. These are all very important engineering applications. So in that engineering application, the direct solution will take n cube steps, whereas if you go through an incremental fashion, it can be done in n square steps. Okay, you can see all the improvement yourself. The formula in a naive way, when you look at it, it will take this, whereas if you cleverly do the incremental, you can get it done in n square step. Significant improvement from n cube to n square. Okay, the size of the problem you can solve is increased, and given a size, this is way faster than the n cube algorithm. By a big order, it is more efficient. So such mechanisms are available. Just to end the discussion on the incremental method and see how you are able to think over, let me get into a reactive mode with you and give the following puzzle. Okay, suppose there is an infinite wall. You are here and this is your position. It is a wall that is extending to infinity on both sides. Okay, there is a golden gate somewhere, either to the left or to the right. You do not know where that golden gate is, and you can't see that gate until you go right in front of it. Okay, now you have to discover that golden gate, and you have to devise a method to reach the golden gate. And obviously you would like to walk as minimum as possible to reach the golden gate. So assume that the golden gate is, let us say, n steps away from you. You do not know n. You do not know where the gate is. You do not know whether it is to the left or to the right. But assume that the gate is n steps away from you. In terms of n, whatever is that n, what will be the cost of your effort of your method? Okay. You can say, suppose I start from here and keep going to the left until I find the gate. And what happens to that algorithm? Obviously that algorithm may not even terminate, because it is going to infinity and the gate is on this side and you have gone to this side. But you can't say that let me go this way. If you go this way, probably if the gate is here, even that method could go on and on and on. You will keep walking forever without hitting the gate. Therefore, it is very clear that you cannot simply go in one direction to discover the gate. Therefore, you have to go back and forth and see where the gate is. Until the gate is tumbled, you have to walk. Right? Now, my question to you is, suggest a way to minimize the total amount of walking that you have to do to discover the golden gate. So how would you do this? If this problem is given, I have posed actually a real life problem in a puzzle form. Okay, this is not really a toy example. In binary search, you know the end points, and because you have the boundary, you are able to do this. So this is actually called unbounded search. So how do you do the unbounded search? Okay, as efficiently as possible. What will be your first reaction as an incremental strategy? Okay, go from here one step to the right. If there is no golden gate, come back and one step to the left, and yeah, 2 steps you make, come back to this. So you go to 1 and you go to -1, and if there is no golden gate here, then you know that it is neither at -1 or +1. Then again you come back, you go up to 2 steps, you take 2 steps from this point and see whether there is a golden gate. If it is not there, you come back and go to -2 here, and if the golden gate is not there, again you go up here, and if it is not found there, you come back, and so on. So this is an incremental method. That is, your incremental strategy is check whether either to the left or to the right, in 3 steps you can see the golden gate. If not, you try whether you can see in 4 steps the golden gate. If not, you see whether by taking 5 steps from the origin, from wherever you started, the golden gate is there. So check 1, 2, 3 and so on. So how many steps you would make until you hit the gate? Suppose the gate is n steps away. When you go back and forth, how many steps you would make? Do a little bit of computation and then check for yourself how many. Yeah, it is order n square. That is very.
2n square.
Yeah. So it is not 2n square because you are walking back and forth over the same track. So you have to be very clear in counting. Right? It is obviously first 1, then again from this point 2, again from this point to 3. Therefore, obviously it is order n square. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus up to n. It is n into n plus 1 by 2. Similar thing is done, but you do little more. So a little bit of careful counting will tell you the following. What you do is you define a stage to be starting from the origin and coming back to that origin. Right? So you go 1, go back 2 and come back here. That is 4 into 1. Again what you do, you go to 2, again come back here and then come over here. That is 4 into 2, because 2 over here, another 2 2's here, another 2 here. So plus 4 into 3, 3 over here, 3 over here, and coming back to origin. So until you find, let us say n minus 1 plus 4 into n minus 1 plus, this is, you have come to origin. Now suppose your algorithm is, to begin with, you are going to the right. In that case, having the golden gate at minus n gives you the maximum labor. In the sense, you go to the right n step, you don't find the gate, you come all the way to minus n, you find the gate. So how much you take? N and 2n. So finally it takes 3n. So 4 into 1 plus 4 into 2 plus 4 into 3 plus 4 into n minus 1 plus 3n. This is 4 into n minus 1 by 2 plus 3n. This is 2n square minus 2n plus 3n, which is equal to 2n square plus n. Anyway, your answer that it is order n square is perfectly valid, but what I have done is I have done some exact calculation. I have done exact calculation for this. Now, is there a possibility to speed up this? Is there a way in which I can, I do the incremental search, is there a way I can reduce it significantly?
Instead of 1 2 3 we can do 1 2 4 8.
Let us see what happens. Here is a suggestion from somebody that first you go to 1, okay, first you go to 1 and come back, then you go to 2 and come back, then you go to 4 and come back, then you go to 8 and come back. This is what the suggestion is. All right. Now, so in a typical, so you take 2 power k equal to 0, 1, 2, 3. This is how it goes, because he is going 1, 2, etc. Of course, if the gate is found in between, it is fine. If the gate is not found out, we are going to go through this process. Finally, we will see what is the cost of finding the gate later on. When we hit the gate, what happens, we will see. So typically when you do this, how much you go? First 2 power k on this side, 2 power k to the negative side, again you will come back to the origin. So one stage consisting of going, coming back and coming back to origin. Again make this trip. So typically it is 4 into 2 power k per stage, right? So 4 into 2 power k, and this is done 4 into 2 power 0 plus 4 into 2 power 1 plus 4 into 2 power 2 plus 4 into 2 power 3 and so on, plus 4 into 2 power k minus 1 plus, suppose n is some 2 power k. As usual, if it goes to the right and then comes to the left, 3 into 2 power k, right? So n is 2 power k, 3 into 2 power k is for 3n is the complexity. So this is 4 into, what is 2 power 0 plus 2 power 1 plus 2 power 2 up to 2 power k minus 1? You know that it is a geometric progression with common ratio 2, therefore it is 2 power k minus 1 by 2 minus 1, which is 1 anyway, plus 3 into 2 power k. This is equal to 7 into 2 power k minus 1, minus 4. But 2 power k is n less than or equal to 7n. Beautiful, right? That was taking n square steps and this is taking n step. Okay, see the incremental strategy. This is how the pattern of thinking. Now I am giving a problem which is different from polynomial evaluation, which is different from Newton's interpolation formula, which is different from closest pair problem idea. That is why these are not called tricks. As I have told you, a trick will work only for that problem. That technique cannot be generalized. There is no abstract wisdom you can extract out of that method and apply it to other problems and so on. Okay? In that case, that is a very specific solution for that problem. Suppose you take one partial differential equation and you have done some solving of that, and if you have solved a certain trajectory for a missile locus or something like that, that is it. You just solved that problem and you have done it and it is fine. It is a specific one. But what we are now trying to learn is paradigm. A broad purpose problem solving tool, intellectual tools and patterns of computation we would like to equip ourselves with, so that it is applicable for wide variety of problems. And that is the reason why I have given this case study. The purpose of this case study is to show you the power of general thinking. This, as I have told you, by itself is not going to be in any software development process. Okay, there won't be any application which is going to have this kind of a puzzle. But what is important is the learning experience that we get as incremental design as a tool for our thinking. So when a particular problem is given, the simplest way to attack and get the first decent clean solution is thinking incrementally. Okay, because this is the, but incremental solution need not be always a very efficient solution, but at least it gives you a head start and gives you one solution which you can even criticize. But even to criticize, you need to have one bad solution at least you should have in your hand, and then say that, well, this is so hopeless, let me go for something else. And if that itself is good enough, it's fine. Like in Horner's rule, the incremental design has given you the best possible solution. In insertion sort, that is a very elegant and very decent sorting mechanism. And Lagrange's interpolation formula, incremental design has resulted in a very practical, and even today in various numerical computing packages, the incremental solution is what is employed and used. Standard library functions are using that method. It is so efficient and practical that it is used in day-to-day life. Okay, so what all I am saying is real life applications. Okay, although some of them may be textbook examples, they are real life ones. As I promised to you, I am always trying to pick up for you people something which has got this practical flavor and the one which connects you to the real world experiences. Okay. All right. So we have seen about incremental. There is another interesting twist you can give for incremental design. What is that increment? What is the twist that you can give? Yes, you can choose the next one, but look at the items that I have chosen next. The items I have chosen next is fixed. In the finding the maxima or insertion sort, what is the next item? I have an array of item. Next is AI. After that, I am going to process another one, namely the next one in the sequence, and so on. Why should I do that? Can't I choose a convenient one to extend it? I am going to extend by one, no doubt about it. Why should it be the next item in my data structure? Can't I take some other item? I will extend by one item by stage, but is it possible for me to think of selecting a smart way of extending it on the fly? Right? This is one important hint you should look for, and you have solved a problem of that kind. What is that? What is the problem that you have solved by incremental design, but it is done on the fly? It depends on the values that you have already chosen. Depending on that, you are choosing the next one appropriately. You may choose to take any one, but there is nothing fixed about it. It's not like your maximum algorithm or insertion sort. It is always this one, I am going to use it for extending kind of a scenario. What is that you have chosen on the fly depending on what you have done so far? You know it. All of you know this method. Not selection sort. Selection sort also is not doing that. Depending on what you have done so far, you are going to make the next choice. Yes? Binary search? No. Binary search doesn't qualify into incremental design. You have processed some input, right? And you are going to process something more. It should lead to, see, some kind of a superset notion is needed, because we are now thinking of problems where we extend our solution to a bigger solution. So I am going from a smaller sub-instance to larger sub-instance. Shortest path? Shortest path algorithm is a correct answer, but it falls into a slightly different paradigm. I will tell you why of course it qualifies into the comment which I have made. Depending on what I have done, I am going to do next, but it is done in a different way. When I discuss that paradigm, I will show the difference. Not divide and conquer. Divide and conquer is a new method altogether, new paradigm. I want a problem which you have solved. Okay. So the reason why I am asking this question is the manner in which you have learned and looked at the solution of a problem. You haven't seen the solution of a problem in terms of its idea, in terms of its core computing spirit. The way in which you have seen a particular program or an idea is, here is a problem, here is a way to do it, and here is a code for it. That is the way you looked at it. So you have passed through the jungle without seeing the wood. Right? This is what one needs. The experience and insight. What we mean by experience is, when you do certain things, you must be able to derive some impression in you, and that impression is what is important. Otherwise, even if there are some people who, even after writing 10 years of C coding, they will not get any so-called wise programming practices. That is because they repeatedly do the same thing without enhancing themselves. That is the reason why I told you, in spite of the fact that I told you the pattern, you are unable to connect this with the one which you have done. Everyone in this room has done this program. Every one of you have solved this. When I tell you, you will realize that yes, we know that. It is the problem of LCM. No. No. How did you do the merging of two sorted sequence? How did you do the merging? You have two sorted sequence. You pull out one item from here and one item from there and so on, and depending on what you have done, either you may make the progress in that sequence or in this sequence. So the next item that you are going to pick up and build your output is depending on the values that you have, and the values over there and the values over here, and it could be anything. There is no fixed thing. It's not that you progress only in A for a while and then only in B after a while. Nothing of that kind. You will not know where you are going to progress. It all depends on the value. It is incremental. You are progressing in the sequence A or in the sequence B, but you don't know where you are going to progress. That all depends on the input values. So it is input or value driven incremental strategy. Okay? You don't have a priori or prefixed style of incremental mechanism. You design, it is an incremental strategy, all right, but what you do is you go ahead depending on the circumstance, which means you are able to exploit fully the potential available, maximum flexibility, maximum juice out of the context you are able to take if you could do this, right? If you go blindly, you will have certain complexity. If you make a smart adjustment based one, obviously you gain efficiency, right? So you look for such a scope, right? So what I am trying to tell you is, in a given problem, all of them may not be possible. For example, if in the closest pair problem, there may not be a wise way of saying what I could take next. In that case, that is not appropriate. But where it is possible, you must look for that. You don't have to go blindly, I'm going to simply take the input representation, I consider one item at a time and keep extending the solution and then get it. Now I am able to double up, let me go this way kind of. Not only this, you can give an interesting twist and you can have more efficiency if you bear in mind this possibility also. So armed with all these three things, when you approach a problem and analyze and study it, surely you are going to get much better and high quality solution. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about a little bit on, we are going to close by 5, that is the time limit we have for today. So now the time is roughly 4:40. In another 20 minutes we are going to wind up today's discussion. The decremental design is just the analog of it. Okay, it is looking at the same thing in a different order. The incremental order goes from smaller to larger. The decremental design goes from larger to smaller. Okay, how do you go from larger to smaller? In the incremental design, the key method that you have used is a strategy to extend the solution. In the decremental design, you are going to use a method or a relation that relates the solution of an instance to a solution of a smaller instance, right? And that is related to still smaller instance, and this way it goes down. Therefore, the natural tool to implement the decremental design is recursion. Recursion is basically a tool that you are going to deploy for implementing the decremental design. So the key for decremental design is identifying that relation, and therefore decremental designs are usually top down. Incremental is bottom up. So in a given context, you see whether a top down formulation is natural or bottom up formulation is natural. Which way of going is convenient for you? That is important. In certain cases, top down will be lot easier than bottom up. Okay, so to give you that subtle difference and the ability between this top down and bottom up, we can have the analog of incremental to the decremental. You can decrement by constant. You can decrement by a constant factor. Okay, you can decrement by constant factor. You can decrement by constant value, you can decrement by constant factor, or you can decrement by arbitrary value. It is not possible for you to increment by arbitrary value. Okay? It is not possible for you to increment by an arbitrary value, because you need to have specific target goal to design the extension algorithm. You need to specify both the smaller instance and the larger instance, and you have to bridge that by that method. In a decremental design, you can decrement by arbitrary value. Decrementing by constant and decrementing by constant factor are very easy to see. Right? There are many problems which you have solved using decrement by constant value. Straightforward example. Recursion, factorial, right? In fact, factorial, as if it is born to illustrate recursion, you feel that it is God has created factorial function to explain recursion. Okay, so it is decrementing by a constant value. Fibonacci numbers, all those things, you can take a look at direct recursive computation from recursion to the code when you try to go. Decrementing by arbitrary value is something that we should know, that a possibility offered by the decremental design alone. To give an illustration of it, find the GCD of two numbers A and B. The GCD of two numbers A and B is the same as GCD of B, A mod B. So given that A is strictly larger than B, if A equal to B, GCD of AB is AB, greatest common divisor. Otherwise, first component is reduced, second component is also reduced. When you say a mod b, it is a remainder when you divide a number by b. When you divide by b, the remainder will be certainly less than b. Therefore, the second component is also small, first component is also small. So, from a larger one, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. By how much it becomes smaller? By arbitrary quantity. Okay? It is not by fixed quantity. And therefore, this is the reason why the number of iterations is very difficult to estimate. How many iterations it is taking for this to converge? You can't say. For binary search, you say log n. For factorial, how many recursive calls will be made? N recursive call will be made, because n goes to n minus 1, n minus 1 goes to n minus 2. Fine. So there you could say exactly how many times it goes. But here, how many times this would go on until you hit it? You can't say. Well, you cannot say immediately. There are mathematical techniques to estimate it, and we have exact estimation, we have a thorough mathematical analysis of it. That's of academic interest. But what I want to say is that it is possible to do, but what I want to emphasize here is slightly different. Look at the way in which it is decrementing. But is it possible for you to think of the reverse of it? The reverse of factorial n you can think of easily. You don't have to write a recursive program. You can write a simple iterative program to find a factorial n. Start from 1, multiply by 2 and 3 and 4 and so on, and output factorial n. So you can write a simple for loop. No recursive call, nothing is needed to compute. Basically, computing factorial n starting from 1 to n is bottom up. Making recursive calls and going all the way down and return the values and building up the value is right. Well, it has one top down phase and there is a bottom up build up phase. Both of them you have, right? So you can see the equivalence there, because decrementing by constant and incrementing by constant can conceptually be very easily related. In fact, you know that every recursive program is an inefficient one. That is because lot of recursive calls are made, function calls are made, parameter processing need to be done, and it is a lot of bookkeeping related overhead. You may not know the computation, but system has to do everything. Therefore, these kind of recursive calls are to be avoided. However, recursive formulation is mathematically very easy to do. Okay, to give you the power of recursion, I will ask you to do just the following. Much like the factorial problem, you know there is one more problem that is born to explain recursion. What is that? Tower of Hanoi. All of you know that. My challenge to you is write a recursive iterative program for Tower of Hanoi. No function call, nothing. I want you to use only while loop, for loop or something like that, and I want you to write a iterative program for Tower of Hanoi. Just try. You don't even know where to start and how to build the solution, how to represent it, and how to get to it. Why? The bottom up is extremely difficult. You feel for it. You just try. You write an iterative program for Tower of Hanoi problem. You know theoretically that for every recursive code there is an equivalent iterative program and vice versa. Right? As a programming constructs, they have the same ability. But as a problem solving tool, recursive formulation is easy. However, just because we have a recursive formulation, you should not jump immediately to an equivalent recursive program. Where possible, you must avoid it and obtain an equivalent iterative program. Then you will gain significantly on efficiency. When the decremental design involves constant decreasing, then you know you can intuitively trace that back and you can write an equivalent iterative program. Imagine what you are doing for factorial. For factorial you keep reducing, but you can also mentally imagine an incremental design which is reverse tracing that path. That is because the decremental is done by a constant value. The same constant increment you can give starting from the smallest instance and keep building the solution for larger and larger instance, and you can simply write a iterative program. Here it is easy to visualize. So there are two instances in which it is easy to visualize. When it is constant and constant factor, it is easy, but when it is arbitrary value, you are running into trouble. It is very difficult to see an equivalent reverse engineering process for this. In this case, from the recursive formulation, you have to go to a recursive code. Well, there are some instances in which you might be able to get an equivalent iterative program, but in some instance it could be difficult conceptually and even mathematically it could be difficult. Just you should feel for it, and that's why I gave you the challenge of find an iterative, try to write an iterative program. All of you are seasoned programmers, you have a lot of experience in programming. Try to give one iterative program by today evening. Let me see how many of you are reporting to me tomorrow an iterative code for Tower of Hanoi problem. It's genuinely difficult. It's not impossible. It's not that it is impossible. Probably if you spend about a month, you should be able to write an iterative program for it. Okay. So I am not saying it is impossible, but just to have a taste of it and see where you could progress or where you could get to how close you could get to an iterative program, right? And so this is one point which I would like to emphasize on the decremental design. Decremental design offers by way of a wider choice, and recursive formulation is often easier to make mathematically. So as a problem solving tool, recursion is efficient, but as a programming tool, recursion is something to be avoided as far as possible. So where possible, we get a decremental design but incremental implementation where possible. That is the reason why both of them you should know well, and their understanding go hand in hand with one another. If you are only interested in conceptual problem solving, you have a recursive formulation done, immediately you can say that a recursive program can be written and you can walk off, right? For an academic assignment, even that could be fine. But as a professional, you just cannot say that I can write a recursive code and simply write a recursion and then get endlessly stuck with the inefficiency of that code. You are interested in generating as much efficient code as possible. Code tuning is very important for you. So besides the formulation, you should look for that, and all these are the subtleties in this design principle and design methodology. Okay. So to summarize what we have seen under incremental and decremental design, incremental design uses a key component of an extension method repeatedly, starting from a trivial instance to the given instance. It keeps building the solution in portions, and then finally it arrives at the answer. You can increment by constant value or constant factor, and constant factor increment will allow you to gallop and reach the answer quickly. And you can also think of incremental design on the fly. An analog of that, in other words, if incremental is considered as bottom up, the top down version of it is the decremental design, and decremental design comes in 3 flavors, and when you consider this in multiple flavors like this, you can arrive at an efficient solution. The key advantage offered by decremental design is the ability to decrement by arbitrary value, which is not possible in incremental mode. It is possible only in decremental mode. Finally, a simple puzzle like what I have given, and this is another interesting question, and this question is the following. This is called the celebrity problem. So given a group of people like this in a hall, a person is a celebrity, okay, a person is a celebrity if 2 conditions are satisfied. 1, okay, everyone knows him. 2, he doesn't know anybody. Right? Obviously, when Clinton comes here, every one of us, we know Clinton, but Clinton doesn't know any one of us. He is a celebrity in this hall if he walks in here. Okay. So, that is the definition of celebrity. So, these two conditions are to be satisfied. A hall may not have a celebrity at all, that is entirely possible. But if there is a celebrity, there can be only one person, there can't be two celebrities, right. In the same hall there can't be two celebrities, because one of these conditions would be violated. Therefore, there may be one celebrity or zero celebrity in this. The question is, find if there is a celebrity in a hall, or if there is one, locate him. This is the problem, if at all there is any. If there is any, locate him. So, the brute force. What is a brute force method? For every pair of persons, you ask this question: A, do you know B? And B, do you know A? Because it is asymmetrical, right? You may know me and I may not know you. Therefore, just because A said he doesn't know B, you can't stop with that. For the same pair, you have to ask another question: B, do you know A? So, for every pair, you have to ask two questions, and finally, you have to identify whether there is a celebrity in the hall or not. So, this calls for, okay, n choose 2, n into n minus 1 by 2 into 2 questions each. So, asking n into n minus 1 questions. Now, I am going to give a decremental design, a simple observation which decreases, right, much like eliminate one twig, break it easily, removing the hair, everything, that analogy you can see can be done. Take a pair A and B, ask only one question, okay, does A know B? The answer is yes or no. If it is yes, A knows B, right. So, he doesn't know anyone, but A knows B, therefore, A cannot be a celebrity. Remove A. A doesn't know B, B cannot be a celebrity because everyone should know him, therefore, remove B. So, what you are doing is, you take a pair, ask one question and eliminate one of them, take another pair, eliminate one of them. So, in this way, in each question you are eliminating one person, finally you are left with one person, but that person may or may not be a celebrity, okay, because he is not involved in any comparison so far. So, you do not know, but if at all there is a celebrity, it should be that guy only, right, because for everybody else you have clearly eliminated that it is not possible. Therefore, what you have done is, you have decremented the problem to a smaller instance gradually, and after n minus 1 questions, you have narrowed in on one x, and all you do is compare x with other n minus 1, ask two questions, then only you will know that whether x is a celebrity or not. X should not know anybody and everyone should know x. If that happens and if that is revealed in the further 2 into n minus 1 questions, because apart from x there are n minus 1 persons, x with one person, 2 questions. So, with all the n minus 1 persons, ask 2 further n minus 1 questions, and in total in 3 n minus 1 questions, and if in any of these questions if the answer turns out to be no, even x is eliminated, therefore, there is no celebrity. But if in all these questions the answer is consistent with these two conditions, x finally declared as celebrity. Yes, there is a celebrity in that hall which is confirmed, and that is this person. Otherwise, there is no celebrity in the hall. So, we could locate as well as confirm in 3 into n minus 1 question, thanks to the decremental design. Rather than using the brute force method, if you look at the scope for decrementing, and if you are able to relate a problem of a given size to a problem of a smaller size, and if that could be repeatedly applied and then narrow down to the trivial instance, it leads to a recursive formulation and it leads to a decremental design. Okay? Just to give you that kind of an impression on a totally different context, I have taken this problem and showed how this simple illustration tells you or gives you the power of decremental design. Of course, decremental design is extensively used in wherever you see recursion as a very powerful tool. Okay, we will see more on this and other very interesting set of problems, ideas and solutions, and the success stories of the human brain tomorrow. Okay, I stop at this point. Any questions that you have? We are going to see other paradigms in our discussion tomorrow. We are going to continue our discussion on variety of problem solving strategies, what is clever about them and how effective they are in some context, and we should also know the both capabilities and limitations, right? We will try to characterize those points and then see where certain things are applicable, and appropriateness, code tuning, everything we will take a look at it in our